Silent Hill 2. Silent Hill 2 is a psychological horror masterpiece that brings you into a fog-shrouded town shaped by its visitors' traumas and regrets. Then you step into James Sunderland's shoes, pulled to Silent Hill by a letter from his wife Mary, who, by the way, died years ago. It's an eerie, formal invitation to face grief and guilt on a whole new level. And yeah, it's majorly messed up. Among the game's endings, the in-water finale really hits hard. James basically gives in to his guilt and drives right into Toluca Lake, ending his life. That's it. No big heroic moment. No last-minute hug. Just a plunge into darkness. It's terrifying because it wipes out any hope for James. He thinks the only way to fix his wrongs is to join Mary in death. No triumphant resolution, no big emotional release. Just the crushing sadness of it all, like an icy hand grabbing your heart. This finale locks down Silent Hill 2's status as a brutal journey into psychological horror. It's not just about creepy creatures, though trust me, there are plenty, but about the nightmares that live in James's head. Regret, guilt, and a boatload of self-loathing. And when you get that James is basically ditching any chance at healing, it feels like a punch to the gut. The in-water ending is a grim reminder that the scariest place sometimes isn't a haunted town. It's the one you create in your own mind. Soma. Soma plunges you into an existential horror show, set in the eerie corridors of Pathos 2, an underwater research base that groans and creaks like it's on its last breath. You wake up as Simon Jarrett, just a regular guy, except his mind got scanned and stuck in some new body. It's unsettling, to say the least. And what really messes with your head is how the game tears apart any neat definition of being human. Since you've got all these mismatched bodies walking around with copied minds, each one desperately clinging to whatever identity they can grab onto. As you slosh through flooded hallways and piece together Pathos 2's secrets, a terrifying idea takes shape. Maybe consciousness is just data. Sure, you can copy it, but there's no continuous thread. The final moments of Soma slam this point home. You're promised salvation by uploading your consciousness to the ARK, a digital safe haven for humanity's remnants. But then you realize the awful truth. Your mind is copied, not moved. You're left behind in your failing body, staring into the choking darkness of Pathos 2, while another you sails off into virtual paradise. Ouch. It's a painfully grim ending that stabs straight into your mind. You did everything right, hit all the switches, solved all the puzzles, and still you're cast aside like old junk. The horror doesn't come from screeching monsters or cheap jump scares. It's the gut-wrenching sense that there isn't one true you, only a bunch of copies. And in Soma, getting out of a doomed station isn't the real victory. It's about confronting the raw, unsettling truth of what makes us human, if anything really does at all. Red Dead Redemption. Red Dead Redemption takes you on a Wild West ride soaked in moral confusion and heartbreaking choices. You step into the boots of John Marston, a former outlaw roped into hunting down his old gang by government agents. It's a sweeping journey across the frontier on its last legs, where dusty saloons and bloody shootouts show a world about to be overtaken by modern times. But behind all the bullets and bravado lies a deeper tale about redemption, loyalty, and the haunting aftershocks of a violent life. The game's ending? It's a real gut punch. After John does the government's dirty work, taking out his former partners in crime, he heads back home, finally hoping for some peace. But that calm barely lasts. Federal agents and soldiers storm his ranch, forcing him into a last stand that's as ruthless as it gets. John steps outside, telling his wife and son to run. Then, boom, a wall of gunfire cuts him down. He tried so hard to make amends, but in the end, they just shoot him to pieces. And it doesn't end there. You're left controlling John's son, Jack, years later, consumed by revenge and stuck in the same cycle of violence his father couldn't escape. It seals the deal on the game's bleak outlook. No matter how hard you try to wash away your sins, this Wild West just doesn't let you ride off into the sunset. It's a stark reminder that sometimes the world refuses to give second chances, no matter how desperately you want them. Inside. Inside is a haunting puzzle platformer that sucks you into a silent, nearly colorless world, crackling with tension. You guide a nameless boy slipping through bleak factories and eerie labs while dodging armed guards and packs of mindless workers who obey some menacing authority. The game never says a single word, no dialogue, not even a text box, letting its unnerving atmosphere do all the talking. But beneath that hushed exterior lies a chilling portrait of corporate testing and dehumanizing control. Each puzzle has you tinkering with brainwashed drones and slipping past lethal defenses, inching forward as the dread mounts. And trust me, it keeps piling on, hinting that getting caught might be the least of your worries. Then the ending shows up and smacks you in the face. The boy merges with a writhing blob of flesh and limbs, busting out of the lab in a crazed rampage. You witness this massive, grotesque thing smashing through glass and barreling into the outside world, only to plop down, unmoving, under a single beam of light. It's so abrupt you can't tell if you won or just stumbled into another cage. Inside's finale is pitch dark because it refuses any hint of comfort or clarity. Instead, it throws the horror of lost identity and free will right at you, driving home the game's core theme. Even as you crash into supposed freedom, that last image leaves you in uneasy silence, questioning if there's really any escape at all. Spec Ops: The Line. Spec Ops: The Line might look like just another modern military shooter on the surface, with desert storms and the crumbling remains of Dubai as its backdrop. But underneath all that heat and rubble, it packs a psychologically brutal story that basically rips apart any heroic war game fantasies. You slip into the role of Captain Martin Walker, a Delta Force operator sent into the shattered city to track down Colonel John Conrad and rescue any survivors. Yet every step deeper into Dubai twists Walker's mission to do the right thing into a moral landslide where heroism and horror start to look the same. One of the game's most shocking scenes is a white phosphorus attack that ends up killing innocent civilians, an atrocity that claws at Walker's psyche and sets the stage for even darker revelations. Then comes the final confrontation. Walker stands face to face with the ghost of Conrad, only to discover the colonel has been dead for ages. The voices, the commands, the orders, all just Walker's guilt talking, proof of how far his mind has spiraled. And the multiple endings? They hammer home the nightmare. Sometimes Walker clings to his delusions, still thinking he's saving the city. In other endings, he straight up rejects rescue, choosing to remain in the hell he's created. Either way, there's no happy wrap-up, no clean slate, just the cold, bitter truth that the so-called hero might be the deadliest villain of them all. Spec Ops: The Line isn't your typical war game. It's a sharp reminder of how violence can warp morality until right and wrong fade away like footprints in the desert. The Last of Us. The Last of Us drops you into a post-apocalyptic world, torn apart by a nasty fungal infection that turns humans into freakish monsters. You play as Joel, a grizzled survivor tormented by a past tragedy, who's tasked with sneaking Ellie, a teenage girl, across a ruined America. Their connection starts off rocky, but soon grows into something like a father-daughter bond, a rare spark of warmth in a land buried under gloom. But then comes the crushing finale. Ellie's immune to the infection, and her body could lead to a cure, though it would require a lethal operation. Joel, confronted with letting Ellie die or possibly saving the world, does the unthinkable. He slaughters the very doctors who might have rescued humanity. It's a deeply human move and a heartbreakingly selfish one, rooted in Joel's desperation not to lose another daughter figure. What makes this ending so disturbingly dark isn't just the bloodshed, it's the murky morality. By saving Ellie, Joel pretty much dooms everyone else, and then he turns around and lies to her, insisting there was never any chance of a cure. That lie weighs on their relationship like a toxic cloud, shadowing all they've fought for. The Last of Us hits you with the brutal truth. In a world gone to hell, even the best of us can wind up making decisions that blur the line between hero and villain. It's a grim reminder that sometimes survival comes with a huge moral price tag, and the only thing left might be holding on to the people you can't bear to lose, no matter what it costs. Braid. Braid might come across like a sweet little puzzle platformer. You've got bright watercolor-style visuals, classical tunes, and a seemingly heroic quest. Tim, a dapper guy in a bow tie, sets out to save a princess from a terrible monster. But don't let the storybook vibe fool you. There's a big dark twist lurking beneath all that cuteness. You see, all those time rewind puzzles are reflections of Tim's obsession with undoing a huge mistake. He's so hung up on rewriting the past that it warps reality itself. Each level gives you a new trick for bending time, and with every puzzle solved, it feels like you're getting closer to the princess, until the final moment pulls the rug out from under you. You run alongside her thinking you're helping her escape, but when you reverse it, bam! It turns out she was running from Tim all along. That reveal flips everything on its head, shattering the fairy tale illusion. The rescue mission was actually Tim chasing the princess, leaving you to wonder who the real monster is. Tim's not some noble knight. He's a guy trapped by his own regrets, obsessively trying to fix the unfixable. And that's the punch in the gut. Sometimes the worst villain isn't a fire-breathing dragon. It's the stuff we can't let go of in our own heads. Undertale. Undertale starts off as a sweet, quirky RPG where a human kid tumbles down into the underground, a secret world under Mount Ebot filled with oddball yet lovable monsters. Normally, you can solve conflicts peacefully, bonding with enemies instead of wiping them out. But then there's the genocide route, a path where you intentionally hunt down and exterminate every monster you see. That shift from possible hero to brutal destroyer flips the game's playful tone on its head. The once bustling monster towns turn into eerie ghost towns, and the friendly faces who once greeted you now realize something is horribly, horribly wrong. Even the cheerful background tunes become warped echoes, mirroring the nightmare your violence has unleashed. The most heart-wrenching scene comes in the final showdown with Sans, a laid-back skeleton who loves jokes, until he discovers the depth of your cruelty. In a grueling fight, he tries with all his might to shield what's left of the underground. You can almost feel his grief and weariness as he desperately struggles to halt your rampage. By the end, Undertale transforms from a warm, whimsical journey into a bleak warning about consequences. The genocide route nails home the harsh truth. Sometimes the worst endings are the ones we create ourselves through the choices we choose to make. So, yeah, that's my tier list. Now don't forget to subscribe for more content about video games. Thanks, and see you next time.